Now to our next topic of the day. The federal government this week cancelled the national policy which stipulates the use of indigenous languages as a medium of instruction in schools. Minister of Education, Dr. Tunji Alausa, stated this at the 2025 Language in Education International Conference, organized by the British Council in Abuja. In 2022, the federal government approved a national language policy which stipulates that from early childhood education to primary 6, the language of instruction will be in the mother tongue or the language of the immediate community. The policy aims to promote indigenous languages, recognize their equal status, and improve early childhood learning outcomes, while English remains the official language used in later education and formal settings. I'm now being joined here by Professor Oladiipo Ajiboye of the Department of Linguistics and African Languages at the University of Lagos. Good to have you on This Day Live, Professor Ajiboye.
Thank you for having me.
Well, basically, the Minister of Education, Dr. Tunji Alausa, says the policy that mother tongue should be the foundational basis of instruction up to the end of primary 6 is not working. And that we have seen a lot of failures because these children, having been taught in local languages, cannot speak English. And now the country has taken a decision to cancel the mother tongue policy of 2022 and the efforts of the likes of Professor Aliu Babs Fafunwa, who worked on mother tongue and had an experiment at the University of Ife, as he then was, and then said, look, it's good to have our children learn first in their mother tongue before they begin to learn English. And he says, this is evidence-based, the cancellation is evidence-based, is research-based, and it's a prescription for failure, which the Nigerian government must deny. He says research was conducted. Well, you are in that field of languages. Do you agree with the minister?
Not at all.
Why? He says it's based on research. It's based on evidence.
Well, the minister has not produced the evidence. That's number one. It's unfortunate that that cancellation comes at this time of the renewed hope of the present administration. Hope for the revival of our indigenous languages, its usefulness for the development of the country or the nation, and no ramification in terms of education in particular, is the policy relating to education is well massaged, is well presented, but first, has it been implemented fully at any level? I think the answer is no. So if there's a policy that has not been implemented, where comes the issue of saying it's not working? That's number one. Number two, ascribing failures, mass failures in JAMB, SSC, NECO, to the use of indigenous language at the lower level of the education is also not accurate, not proper. Number one, the Nigerian education is divided into 5 tiers. The pre-primary education, the primary school, the first 3 years in the secondary school, the last 3 years in the secondary school, and the 4-5 years in the university. So, assuming that policy is fully implemented, it stops at primary 6. And if that policy is implemented, English will be taught and would have been taught for 6 years in the primary school. So if a child that is taught in all other subjects for the first primary school enters secondary school, having been taught English language in the 6 years of his primary school, where lies the excuse for failure? If he has mastered other subjects, he ought to have mastered English up to the point that learning any other subject in the secondary school will not be a problem. So that's not, I don't think that excuse is tenable at all.
Okay, Prof, I mean, you are a professor in the Department of Linguistics and African Languages. So it's natural for you to want to defend African languages because it's about identity, it's about preservation of languages. If they scrap African languages, you'll probably be out of job. The issue is that the minister is saying, let these children from the primary school learn English, which is a language of competition. At a time, people are talking about artificial intelligence, they are talking about technology. How are you going to teach people in Ijagam, Ijebu dialect, Fufude? How will they compete? So this is the whole argument. And if you look at many families, they are bringing up expatriate children. Many families don't speak mother tongue to their children. In fact, in some schools, you can be penalized for speaking in vernacular, as they call it. So don't you think that, society is modernizing, it's going back from all this village mentality. You may call it recolonization, but we're in the age of competition.
Yes, age of competition. With who? With other nations of the world, right?
Yes.
China is there, Japan is there, and many other countries that develop their education using their mother tongue. China has many languages from which Mandarin is chosen, and we can't fault the development that Chinese government and people have made in terms of their education, their technology, and what have you. So the issue being raised here or being promoted here is just out of inability to want to implement what will be good for the nation. Because those who brought the policy, they know what is good for the nation. Nigeria is a multilingual nation. So imposing a foreign language to come and dominate other indigenous languages is not the best in terms of development in any way at all. Because each nation, like I said, if you look at China, you look at Korea, if you look at their advancement in technology, is it through the use of English language or any other language apart from the language of the country? No. So it has no basis at all. Now, the elite, yes, even beyond the elite, even the roadside mechanic taking his child to school will be speaking quote and unquote English language that it doesn't even understand whether it's correct or not. That is the mentality. But is that the factual? It's not. Because if you are going to develop a nation, or you are going to, a child is going to develop in education, the best is to start the education with his mother tongue, which is the language he grows with, which is the language of its immediate environment. I know of people who have the ability to speak many languages. I have a teacher when I was in Canada who was speaking 9 languages. So speaking one's mother tongue or using one mother's tongue as a medium of instruction in our schools, is never a way to inhibit progress or development of a child in terms of his education. Okay,
Prof, let's look at it this way. Is a policy in itself practicable in the first place? Nigeria has over 500 plus indigenous languages. Isn't that really a chaotic situation? If everybody is learning their dialects, this one learns science in Ekiti dialect, that one learns in Igbira dialect. How do you, and where are the teachers to teach this mother tongue, languages? We don't have the teachers. We don't have the quality of the teachers who can do it. So was the policy in itself practicable in the first place?
It is. Bongos Ikwe said in one of his LPs, when there's a desire, there's a means. And when there's a will, there's a way. Is our government ready? The answer is no. And it is not only in the indigenous languages. If there is no manpower, there's no way you'll be talking of executing this language policy. That there are no enough teachers is a fact. But whose fault? It's not the fault of the few teachers on the field. It's not the fault of the parents or the children. It's the fault of the government. By the time the policy is being put in place, it is assumed that there will be training of teachers of these indigenous languages. Now, on the question of we have many languages, yes, this is well captioned when it says the mother tongue or the language of the immediate environment. And it has limitation. When the first policy was made, it was for the first 3 years in the primary school. And that is still the formative stage. Every community will have people who can do that, who have people who are proficient in the language of the immediate environment. And if you look at that from 1976 to date, supposing manpower has been developed into, effort is being made to that direction, we won't be where we are today. But because right from the inception, I think the government, year in, year out, probably is not ready to make sure that that policy is materialized.
Okay, well, let me concede that you are right, that the policy has worked in other places. You cited China,
Japan, Korea.
Japan, South Korea, yes.
Ethiopia,
Norway.
Yes.
Places where that policy has worked. What are the best practices, lessons that Nigeria should have learned from those other places that we did not have on the ground here?
I think I mentioned it already in passing. The government is not ready for the implementation. When there's a problem, no nation sit down and watching the problem to continue or to escalate. You seek for solution. Those nations are not out of reach. If we have an education minister, if this policy is to be implemented and we don't know where to start, we can take a visit to these countries, see what they have in place in terms of the paperwork, the policy itself, in terms of how those countries are able to execute their own language policy and come back. It may not be immediate, and it has not been immediate. Even the one that started with a 3-year duration has not been implemented. It's being extended to 6 years. 2022 to date, that's 3 years. Supposing that has even been implemented, how will 3 years be the problem for the failure of students in their exams? The answer is no.
Okay, but Prof, there is an irony here.
Okay.
You are a professor of linguistics and African languages, but we are conducting this interview in English. So the Minister of Education is likely to say, well, this is what we are talking about. Even if you stay with the mother tongue, eventually everybody will speak English. Even the professor of African languages is speaking English so that you can reach the international community on Arise News. If we had wanted this to be in Yoruba language, I probably would not get the idioms right.
Well, I don't think that is the problem. That's not the problem. Again, if it happens in China, if it happens in Japan, it can also happen here. So conducting this interview in English is because this is the medium of instruction for today. If that policy has been in place, maybe it's going to be a different ball game entirely.
Okay, but the Minister of Education said before the federal government read this decision, there was consultation. The experts in the field, people like yourself, who promote this modern tongue policy, were consulted. And it was based on their research, evaluation, and advice that the federal government took this decision. Do you believe him, or do you think that he just made it up, that there was wide consultation within the subject area experts, among the subject area experts?
I won't say the minister is not telling the truth, but we haven't seen the facts. We haven't heard of names of experts. If there's going to be experts that will be mentioned, we have the likes of Professor Bangbushe, Professor Awobului, Professor Egbohare, and many other practicing linguists and teachers of the language. I don't know of any, and I've never read in paper that X and Y have been mentioned as people that have been consulted. Even this pronouncement, we didn't know that we had just on the television. We will expect a policy is not made by one man. So if the reverse or the cancellation is going to come, I think it should go beyond the mere pronouncement on the radio or television.
Okay, Prof. So what do you recommend as the way forward now that this announcement has been made?
I think there should be consultation. The education minister should listen to reactions from different quarters, from teachers, from parents, from members of public, and even the media. So that it is not, well, it's unfortunate, like as I've said many times, that by now the nation ought to have moved forward in terms of its developmental programs, especially with respect to education. But when the willingness to do it is not there, we are talking of if this implementation is going to come to being, there must be enough teachers, there must be adequate materials, funding, and what have you. All these are lacking. And so it is easy to see clearly that, we cannot implement it. But you cannot, a carpenter will not go to the classroom to teach my language. A bricklayer will not go to do the same thing in Hausa. So they have to have teachers that will be trained. I remember when the UB education was during the Obasanjo era, we see there was mass training of teachers. So in the same vein, if we want this policy to be implemented, we will start with a training of teachers. If there are teachers on ground, and we have people who are willing, we have associations like Linguistic Association of Nigeria, like Yoruba Studies Association of Nigeria, like Egbe Akomolede Yoruba, and so many professionals that are ready to do the development of teaching materials and so on and so forth to actually make things work. But that will be when the government is ready.
Okay, finally, Prof, why is mother tongue instruction, learning in the mother tongue, why is it important? Because some people may be wondering, what is this all about?
Yes, when a child is born, if the word mother tongue, why not father's tongue? Because the child is intimated with the mother as he grows up. The first person to contact or that he has contact with is the mother. And as he's developing, he develops the language of the mother, and which by extension is the language of the immediate environment. A child starts learning about the environment, even the mother himself, and the environment through the language that is well exposed to. This is the language that that can be used to reason. You cannot think through a foreign language that you don't have master of. You have to start your thoughts is developed through your language. And if mother language, the language that a child is exposed to is the language of his immediate environment, that is where the reasoning starts. And that is why the issue of mother tongue cannot be underplayed.
Okay, on that note, I would like to thank you very much for joining us on This is Live Day Sunday Talk Show. We've been talking with Professor Oladiipo Ajiboye. Professor Ajiboye, Professor of Linguistics and African Languages at the University of Lagos, making a case for the importance of mother tongue instruction within our education system.